Ladies and gentlemen, it's just a matter of time, and Mount Kenya are likely to fall out with William Samoei Arap Ruto.
Please, watu wangu wa Nyandarua, watu ya Mlima Kenya, hii serikali ni yetu. Nyinyi ndio mlichagua Rais William Ruto. Kama wengine watatupa mawe, msikuwe ya kwanza.
And the question that I've posed on this channel severally is just one. If the mountain could betray, could dump Uhuru Mugai Kenyatta of all the people, a man who was anointed by God according to them, there is nothing that will stop the mountain from dumping William Samoei Arap Ruto. Mark this, it might not happen now, but it's bound to happen.
Na kwa hivyo hii shida itaisha. Na mimi ningetaka mkuwe na imani that the darkest hour is just before dawn. Ningetaka tuendelee kumwombea rais wetu, akuwe na hekima, akuwe na ushupavu wa kuongoza Kenya na Afrika, na sana sana tumsaidie na maombi, na wale ambaye tumepewa kazi ya kumshauri aweze kubadilisha uchumi wetu.
It's a matter of time. And I'm reading in the news today that immediately after the UDA National Governing Council meeting at Bomas of Kenya ended, two parallel meetings were organized by Mount Kenya leaders. The first meeting comprised of a group of 12 members of parliament from Kiambu County. These 12 members of parliament from Kiambu County, from Bomas, they retreated to current residence of Rigathi Gachagua. They discussed several issues. Then there's another group of 48 members of parliament from the mountain who went and retreated to the home of the Kenya MP around Thika Greens. That is the news today. And it's just a matter of time. Three things cannot be hidden: the sun, the moon, and the truth. The truth of the matter is that William Ruto is plotting how to tame Mount Kenya. And Mount Kenya are also observing William Ruto's moves very closely. According to the news, the agenda were like 4 or 5. The first agenda these 60 members of parliament were discussing was the overreaching PSs, permanent secretaries, in cabinet secretaries' staffs. You know, there's been the issue of permanent secretary frustrating Alice Wahome. Then they were also discussing about the allocation of funds for water and road projects from the mountain. That there are certain amount of money that were allocated for certain water projects and road projects in the mountain, but those funds are now being diverted to please other regions. The other thing they were raising was that several Mount Kenya leaders, especially those working in senior government positions, are actually being kicked out and being replaced by others. And of course, that's a trend that has been there. And lastly, failure to honor promises. So the question is, what promises were those? But I've always told you guys on this platform that in politics, nothing happens out of mere coincidence. Everything in politics is normally well planned, well scripted, and executed to achieve a specific political objective. What was the objective of the two meetings? For us to understand all this, we need to go back to when Kenya Kwanza government was formed. The first step in forming Kenya Kwanza government was to swear in William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua. That was done. After that was to form the cabinet, and the cabinet was named. And of course, the mountain had how many? We had Rigathi Gachagua, Methika Linturi, we had Sakari Njeru, we had Rebecca Miano, we had Juguna Ndungu, then we had Kithure Kindiki, we had Alice Wahome, we had Moses Kuria. That was good. They had the numbers. So that was formed. Then William Ruto then appointed the accounting officers in those ministries, the permanent secretaries. And I did a proper analysis about those appointment of permanent secretaries. That's where the problem began. William Ruto actually named 50 cabinet secretaries. But it was clear that William Ruto ensured that anywhere a Kikuyu was appointed or someone from Mount Kenya was appointed, the permanent secretary was a Kalenjin. And I opined that the idea was to checkmate those cabinet secretaries, especially those who are active in politics. And apart from checkmating them, William Ruto also wanted to ensure that, because this Mount Kenya permanent secretaries were actually given very lucrative ministries, William Ruto wanted those permanent secretaries to be the one in charge. For those who might have forgotten, let me just read for you, because I prepared a list here. When Ruto appointed Rigathi Gachagua as the deputy president, he appointed Julius Korir as the principal secretary, cabinet affairs. That's okay. You can't play around with Rigathi Gachagua, because Rigathi Gachagua is someone who has served in the government. My intention in this video is to try and explain to you guys why Mount Kenya is actually worried and why they're likely to fall out with William Ruto anytime soon. Then William Ruto appointed Mithika Linturi as the Minister for Agriculture. That's one of the most lucrative ministries. Of course, if you look at Mithika Linturi, I don't think he has any ambition beyond being a cabinet secretary. The permanent secretary who was appointed at that time was a gentleman called Harry Kimutai. For those who follow the politics of the Republic, Harry Kimutai was moved to Ministry of Medical Services when there was those issues. Of course, Ministry of Medical Services, Ruto had interest, so he moved it there, then transferred Jonathan Mweke. So we can safely say that Mithika Linturi is actually free. He doesn't have those problems. Then William Ruto appointed a gentleman called Zakari Njeru as the cabinet secretary for lands. Lands is one of the most lucrative ministries, and Kenyans were wondering, who is this guy? And of course, the permanent secretary for lands was appointed, Ruto appointed Nixon Korir. Which means if William Ruto needed anything as far as land issues are concerned, he doesn't need to consult Njeru. William Ruto will just call Korir. Then he appointed a lady called Rebecca Miano, who was not really known, as the cabinet secretary for East African and semi-arid lands and regional developments. Because the lady is not really into politics, nothing much, naive, William Ruto decided to appoint someone called Kevit Desai as a permanent secretary. No problem there. They don't have problem there. Then William Ruto appointed Njunguna Ndungu as the cabinet secretary in the treasury. But who was the permanent secretary? Dr. Chris Kipto, highly qualified individual. But you can now understand how these things are flowing. Then William Ruto went and appointed Professor Kithure Kindiki as the cabinet secretary for interior. Yeah, that's a very lucrative docket. Of course, you know that Kithure Kindiki might not really have ambitions that much, but William Ruto made sure that he had two permanent secretaries. One of them is Raila Odinga, who is a close associate of William Samoei Arap Ruto. And then William Ruto had to bring Julius Bitok, who is in charge of very lucrative aspect of immigration and registrations. Then Alice Wahome, who is a politician, Minister for Water and Sanitation. Then William Ruto had to give her Dr. Kiprono Rono as a permanent secretary. Then, of course, we have Moses Kuria, who is the Minister for Trade. I think he has 3 permanent secretaries. None of them is from the Kalenjin nation, but of course there's Alfred Kombodo from my village. And of course, you know, he did something. He appointed some guy, Aden Mohammed, the former permanent secretary, the former cabinet secretary for trade, has been appointed as economic advisor. Basically, it's the guy who is running this particular ministry. Those appointments were actually bound to raise questions. And because those guys were appointed to checkmate these guys, some of these guys have been trying to do certain things and they're being frustrated. And it is now manifesting. So I want us to look at why Mount Kenya is actually worried. Before we do that, for those who are watching the channel for the first time, please take a second or two, click that subscribe button so that next time we produce a video like this, YouTube will automatically notify you. And to the subscribers, I want to continue thanking you guys for your continued support, because without that support, this channel cannot be where it is. And without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to dive in. Why do you think the mountain are worried? Number one, William Ruto's move to court Western Kenya. You see, for those who've been following the politics of William Ruto, since he took over, William Ruto has been trying so hard to win the support of Raila Odinga's strongholds. He's focusing more on Western Kenya. That is Kisii, Luhya, let's say Migori, where there's the Kuria. He's been trying so hard to win the support. And because William Ruto is trying so hard to win those support, the mountain is not resting. Why? Because Mount Kenya believes that they own Kenya Kwanza government and that they are enough to deliver anything to Ruto. So if Ruto is working hard to bring the Luhya nation and the Kisiis, then it means the value of Mount Kenya in Kenya Kwanza is going to come down. They cannot really succeed in undermining or frustrating William Ruto, blackmail him the way they used to do. And that's why they are worried. Why is this guy going to Western Kenya? William Ruto is supposed to embark on some tour of Luo Nyanza. He just concluded another one in Western. Of course, he was in Kiambu the other day, but just to try and firefight. So the truth is, the fact that Ruto is trying to now shift his focus from the mountain, because usually the mountain are used to Ruto this way, that Ruto would go to the mountain like in a week, 5 times. Then spare 2 days for the rest of the country. But that's now not happening. If William Ruto goes to the mountain for 7 days, he goes to another region for 7 days, another region for 7 days. And this is not sitting down well with the mountain. And that is something which is worrying them. Is Ruto planning to appoint someone from the mountain, from Luhya Nation as a successor? Those are the issues. Number two, the mountain is also worried because the ground is proving to be a bit hostile. I was talking to a friend of mine who is a subscriber of this channel. He comes from the mountain, and he was telling me, Lee, if elections were to be held today in the mountain, and I'm telling you to mark this in Kiambu, there's a high chance that UDA party might not win a single seat in Kiambu. I asked him why. He told me the residents there are really regretting why they did not listen to Uhuru Kenyatta, because they ended up electing people. They are even questioning how they ended up electing some of those, the quality. And he told me that if that elections were to be held again, then there's a high chance that in Kiambu, Uhuru Kenyatta is definitely going to determine who becomes the next governor. I don't know how true that is, but now adding to whatever we are reading today, there's a high chance that that's happening. So the truth is, there is ground hostility. The members of parliament, the senators from that region, the MCS, are feeling the heat because they promised the residents so many things. They are not happening. They are seeing some of their people being kicked out of government. Nothing is happening. They're also seeing their cabinet secretaries being frustrated, and nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. So the ground is starting to be a bit hostile. In fact, the guy told me that if elections were to be held, for members of parliament, they are going to be worse. Of course, he told me that they'll still vote for Ruto, but some of these elective positions, problem. Number three, Mount Kenya is also worried because of what they consider development. Mount Kenya would be comfortable if nothing is happening to Nyanza, as long as nothing is also happening to their region. But if they see small development being taken to Nyanza or other region, then they don't consider that as development. In fact, if you look at the fallout between Ruto and Uhuru, one thing which William Ruto used to do to convince the mountain was that Uhuru Kenyatta was developing a port in Mombasa. Some elements in Mount Kenya did not want anything to do with the development in Nyanza. So right now, they want to believe that as long as Ruto is going to Homa Bay to launch that pyre, then that's that's something which should not be happening. So they are now feeling those things should be taken to the ground there. So development issues is the main thing. But I keep on asking myself, if Uhuru Kenyatta did all those things he did, but then they still rejected Uhuru Kenyatta, is there anything that Ruto will do to stop them from threatening him? I don't know. Number 4 is the UDA elections. You know, William Ruto announced that UDA elections are going to happen soon. Number 1, there's the position of the party leader, deputy party leader, there's the secretary general, then there's the chairman, blah, blah, blah. William Ruto the other day announced that nobody within UDA party is going to be defended, to be shielded from competition, which means it's opening the field for everybody. But the fear in the mountain is that other regions can actually gang up against them. So they want to pile pressure and create tension so that their interests are going to be taken care of. And lastly, it's about the 2027 election. Mount Kenya fear that Rigathi Gachagua might be shortchanged. And all these meetings are happening under the watchful eyes of Rigathi Gachagua. That Ruto is now trying to lean towards Musalia Mudavadi. I don't know what to think, but that's my take. Until next time, this is Lee Makwiny. Bye-bye.